Our question says, a glass company manufactures a cylindrical shaped glass vase and packs it in a square-based rectangular box. The box is 12 centimeters wide and the vase just fits inside the box. The amount of empty space between the vase and the box is 927.08 centimeters cubed. Determine the surface area of the vase. So when I read through the question, there's a couple of things that I notice. It tells me that the vase is a cylinder. That's important. And that it's going inside of a square-based rectangular box. So it's a cylinder-shaped vase. A vase is kind of like a giant glass, right? It's something you can put flowers in. And then a square-based box is just going to be a rectangular box. So the box is 12 centimeters wide, and the vase just fits inside. We want the amount of empty space, and we know that it's that right there, and we want to find the surface area. So there's a lot going on in this question. So when I look at this question, there's a couple of things that jump out at me. Number one, this has centimeters cubed, which means this is a volume. It is the amount of empty space. Anytime we talk about space inside a shape, that's volume. But it's asking me to find surface area. So it's giving me volume, but it wants me to find surface area. So we're going to have to try to puzzle that one out. I think I might start by drawing myself a picture. And I think I'm going to draw it from two different perspectives to try to make this a little easier for us to figure out. So there is a cylindrical shaped glass vase. So I'm going to start by drawing myself a cylinder. And then that cylinder is inside of a rectangular box. Now it says that it just fits inside the box, which means that the edges of the vase are probably touching the edges of the box. So there's going to be a box around this where the sides of the cylinder touch the sides of the box. So I said I was going to draw this from two perspectives. I'm also going to draw an overhead view. So if you were looking at it from the top, there would be the cylinder, and then the box is just touching the edges. So there's no extra packing material. And then it says we want to find, it gave me the empty space that is around that shape. Okay, so let's see if I go back and look at the numbers. It says it is a 12 centimeter wide box. So this box here is 12 centimeters wide. And if the vase just fits inside, that means the vase is also probably really, really, really close to 12 centimeters wide. And if the circle part here is 12 centimeters wide, that means that our radius is half of that, which is 6. So in this picture, I now know that the radius of my cylinder is 6. I also know that the box is 12, and it said it was square, so that means it's 12 by 12, right? Going in all sides there. Do we think the height is also 12? It doesn't say that. It says it's square based. So the base is a square. It doesn't say it's a cube. That's what it would say if all the sides were the same. So the problem is I don't actually know what the height is. So they did tell me the volume, but it's the volume of the empty space. So if you were to take the volume of the box and subtract the volume of the vase, that leftover space is 927.08 centimeters cubed. So my volume, I am just going to write this down over here, is the box minus the vase. And I could do the calculation for the box, the calculation for the vase, and then go from there. I'm going to try to do it in one single formula. We are doing volume. So the box is a rectangular prism. So the volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height. And I'm going to do it in uppercase letters. I find my lowercase l looks like a 1. So the box is length times width times height. The vase, which is a cylinder, is pi r squared h. Okay, so I'm going to fill in what I know. If I look at my rectangular prism and I use my diagram on my formula sheet as a guideline, the length should be 12, the width should be 12, and then the height, I don't know. So I'm going to do 12 times 12 times the mystery height. And then when I do the cylinder here, I know the radius from my diagram is 6, and I also don't know what the height is. So this is going to be minus pi times r, which is 6. It is squared, so I'm going to do it twice, and then times the height. And then I know that this answer is supposed to be 927.08 centimeters cubed. So what I now have is I have an equation. It's a very complicated looking equation, but I feel like maybe we can do this. So I'm going to start by just simplifying some of this. So I'm going to multiply 12 times 12 and then maybe pi times 6 times 6. So 12 times 12, I know that's 124. Sorry, 144. Here we go. So it's 144 times h. So I'm just going to write it as 144h. And then here, pi times 6 times 6. So when we've done other questions where we were adding and subtracting things and they had a pi, we left the pi until the end so that I didn't have to work with decimals. But I feel like in this question, I'm going to need to use it as a decimal. So I'm going to use my pi button. Please use 3.14159 if you don't have a pi button. And then times 6 times 6, and I get that terrible looking decimal. So 113.09. The next number is a 7, so that's going to push that 9 up to a 10, so it's going to be 113.10. Now, normally I would not round in the middle of a question, but I don't know that I want to keep every single one of those decimal places right now. So I'm going to do 113.10. And then that is also times h. So h. Now, 144h and 113.10h are like terms. They both have an h. So I should be able to collect those like terms by doing 144 minus 113.10, which gives me 30.9. So I have 30.9h. And then if I want to solve for h, I need to find a way to cancel out a multiplication by 30.9, so I can divide both sides by 30.9. So 927.08 divided by 30.9 gives me 30.002. So that is 30.00. This is not going to round it up, so that would be approximately 30. And that should be centimeters is my height. So all of that work, we don't have the surface area, but I do at least now know that the height of the cylinder and the box is basically 30 centimeters. Okay, so now I'm supposed to find the surface area of just the vase. So I'm going to look up the formula for a cylinder. I notice that it is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. So I am going to start with that. Maybe we'll do it here. So I'm going to say the surface area is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. Now if I think about a vase, it is a cylinder, but it is something that I would put flowers into. which means it doesn't have a top. So this shape here would not have a top. It should have a bottom, otherwise all the water would fall out. So if I look at a cylinder has a circle on the top and a circle on the bottom, and then a big rectangle around the side. So in order to have the vase, I still need the bottom and I still need the side. The only thing I don't need is I don't need the top. So it does say on my formula sheet that the base, that circle, is a pi r squared. So we need to take away the pi r squared that's on the top. So in my formula, there are 2 pi r squareds because there's 2 circles, one on the top and one on the bottom. So here, I'm going to modify my formula by taking out the 2 from the pi r squared and just doing 1 pi r squared because there's still the bottom. You could also do 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h and then subtract 1 pi r squared, so to subtract the top. I don't touch the 2 pi r h. I don't take the 2 off of there because that's the side. I don't want to change the side. I only want to take off the top. Okay, so I'm going to sub in my numbers. So I have 1, I don't really need to write that down, times pi times r, which is 6. Squared means I do it twice. So pi times 6 times 6, and then plus 2 times pi times r, which is 6, and then times my height, which we found to be 30. Now, in this case, I don't really want to have to work with the decimals, so I'm going to try to leave it with the pi's until the end. I didn't do that on the previous question because this part didn't have a pi. If this part had had a pi, I probably would have. So pi times 6 times 6, 6 times 6 is 36, so I have 36 pi. And then 2 times 6 times 30 is 360 pi. And if I add 360 and 36, I get 396. And now that I'm at my final answer, I'm okay with getting a decimal, so I'm going to multiply that by pi. And I get 1,244.07. And then the next number is a 0, so it stays 0.7. Now that is approximate because I rounded, and that is centimeters squared. Okay, so I really should write a sentence for this one. So I'm going to say, therefore, the surface area is (1,244.07 centimeters squared).